206. All individual comments shall be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. The board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that is not included on the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. If there are more requests than time available, priority will be given to persons that reside within the Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. With that said, Jessica, sorry for the...
Good evening. My name is Jessica Flossie, and I'm a social studies teacher at Grand Rapids High School. I stand before you today with concerns regarding the proposed cuts to our social studies department. I believe we as a district in some ways have lost our way, focusing on students as mere dollar amounts while forgetting something fundamental. Education is not just about efficiency. It should be doing about what's best for our kids. I have 2 key concerns in this proposed budget regarding social studies education. When I look at your agenda today, all that is reflected is a 0.6 cut to social studies at the high school. What you may not be aware of is the removal of economics from the social studies department to other departments in the building. As the primary economics teacher, I am devastated. As a requirement in the Minnesota Social Studies standards, this decision devalues the subject's importance as a critical component of a student's civic education. Economics is not simply about balancing budgets or understanding markets. It's about understanding the systems that shape our societies, the distribution of resources, and the impact of policy decisions on individuals and communities. Even the decisions being made here tonight are related to economics. I tell students that in the end, it all comes down to people and the decisions they make. It is fundamentally a social science. Not all students fit neatly into one of our career pathways in either business or agriculture. And for that matter, where is the humanities pathway for students who want a career in the social sciences? Additionally, there is a new law that says government must be taught in 12th grade. In our department, we had addressed this law by including government standards in my economics course. Now we will have teachers who need to cover these standards who are not licensed to teach government. And to be clear, this district has invested in me. You have spent money to support my professional development, allowing me to become a more effective economics teacher in the past 10 years. I'm good at what I do. I'm passionate about the importance of economics education. I've spent the last 10 years working hard to be the best at it, spending time away from my own family on nights, weekends, and weeks during the summer to make sure I've created a class that is beneficial and relevant to students. These proposed cuts leave me feeling defeated. It feels as though my expertise, my dedication, and my years of service in this district are being devalued and underappreciated. Sorry. This brings me to my second concern. We live in an age of unprecedented misinformation where critical thinking and informed decision-making are a necessity. If there was ever a time when social studies was important, it is now. Our students need history to understand the present. They need civics to engage in democracy. They need geography to comprehend global issues. And they need economics, not as a stray elective in another department, but part of a comprehensive social studies education to understand how the world truly operates. We are teaching them to be the next generation of informed, engaged, and responsible citizens. To diminish the importance of social studies is to diminish the potential of our students and the future of our community. I'm not naive enough to think that speaking here today will change anything. Once we get to this stage, the writing is on the wall. But I still think there's value in hearing directly from those of us affected by the decisions you're making. Teachers and students are more than just numbers on a page. Not to be dramatic, but these decisions can have life-altering consequences. Budget constraints are real, but our responsibility to students is greater. If we truly believe in preparing students for the future, we must invest in social studies, not cut it. Thank you.
Jessica, thank you. Oh, we have Elise Sperling.
Hi, my name is Elise Sperling Anderson. I teach with Jessica Flossie in the Grand Rapids High School Social Studies Department. I'll try to take a deep breath. I teach a lot of ninth graders. I teach advanced ninth grade and I teach ninth grade regular. I teach government and I teach geography and I teach an elective sociology. What you're cutting tonight is 0.6 of social studies, and I have studied the paper that is in the agenda, and it says increased class sizes due to 0.6 social. So I don't know what will specifically be affected by this, but what that tells me is that instead of having 27 students in a room, I could have 32 ninth graders. The challenges that I see specifically ninth graders facing are immense. In many ways, they come into the high school and they have so many challenges that we try to shepherd them through. So the concept that we would increase our class sizes for regular classes and for ninth grade classes is very hard to fathom. Some of the things that I deal with on a daily basis are a lot of special education needs. In my ninth grade classes, about a third of students have an individual education plan, meaning out of 30 students, I am individually teaching to 10 of them. I am meeting their accommodations. And on a daily basis, if I see 140 students, anywhere from 30 to 50 of them are in special education. We are seeing unprecedented chronic absenteeism, mental health needs of students, lack of motivation, and devices that are challenging these students and changing them. And to fathom having more students in a classroom is very challenging for me to process. I have 3 questions I would appreciate you discussing tonight. My first question is, the people that have made these decisions, what amount of time have they spent in the classroom observing teachers? Whether that's the school board, whether that's the superintendent, whether that's the administrators. What amount of time have they spent in a classroom? I have not had an administrator in my room for any extended period amount of time in years to understand me as a teacher, to see my class sizes, to see what I deal with. So I'm wondering, how much have the decision makers spent time in classrooms? My second question is, why are these cuts teacher heavy? Teacher unit heavy. I have added up $315,000 of teacher cuts, and I do not see cuts to administrative positions. So I'm wondering why the focus seems to be on teacher cuts instead of administrative cuts, and that is any type of position that is not student facing. My third question is, if the legislature appropriates more money to our district than expected during this legislative session, will you rehire positions or will you add to the fund balance? I appreciate your time. I know it is a thankless position. I appreciate all that you've put into this and how much we all care about students, but I do hope that you can discuss my 3 questions. How much have decision makers spent time in classrooms? Why do these cuts seem to affect teachers more than administrative positions? And would you rehire any positions if you get more funding than expected? Thank you.
Elise, thank you. Want to hear from Troy Gunderson?
Good evening, Superintendent Gross and members of the school board. My name is Troy Gunderson. I'm an English teacher at Grand Rapids High School, and this is my 15th year teaching in District 318. If Friday's proposed cuts are all adopted, we would be 3 teaching positions lighter in the district. And according to my math, all told, we would be down 43.2 teaching positions across ISD 318 since cuts began. I could stand here and talk about the teaching positions we've lost, the amazing and talented people we've lost, the support staff we've lost, the classes and engaging electives we've lost, the resources we've lost, the libraries we've lost, and the space we've lost as class sizes have ballooned. But the biggest thing that we have lost as educators during these times is time. I coach football here at Grand Rapids, and over the years, our head football coach, Greg Spahn, has talked to our players that time is our most precious resource. Coach Spahn impresses upon our players that they need to balance their time in order to get in the work they need to become better football players, along with balancing time in their personal lives, their hobbies, jobs, and just being teenagers. He also says that once time is gone, it's gone. There's no getting it back. The loss of time is felt and seen by district teachers in countless ways. We have lost time to create new and engaging units, lessons, and activities for our students. We have lost time to give thoughtful and descriptive feedback on essays and projects. We have lost time to work with our department members on issues to improve the subjects we teach. We have lost prep time in order to attend meetings, evaluations, and countless trainings. Like our football players, like everybody in this room, teachers have to make decisions about how we spend our time and balance our lives. On one hand, we want to give everything we have to our students every single day. It's our passion. On the other hand, we are parents, we're spouses, and we have lives and passions outside of work like everyone else. Through all the reductions in what we've lost in our district and the time crunch that we are under, teacher burnout has never been more real. In May, my oldest daughter, Noelle, will be graduating from Augustana University in Sioux Falls with a degree in music education, and I could not be more proud that she is following in her grandpa's and her old man's footsteps to become a teacher. At the same time, I'm extremely worried about the career she's chosen. According to the National Commission on Teaching and America's Future, nearly 50% of new teachers leave the profession within their first 5 years. According to a poll conducted 2 years ago by our teacher union, out of 190 responses, 69.5% of 318 teachers have considered leaving the teaching profession. Please let that sink in. 70%. Teacher burnout is real. So the question is, what can be done? How do we move forward? It's my sincere hope, and maybe a little bit of a challenge to the people sitting here tonight, to our district and building leadership, to begin having sincere and genuine conversations around the topic of time, balance, and teacher burnout. What are things that can be taken off our plates, adjusted, modified, and changed to lighten that time crunch and reduce burnout so teachers can be the best at what we do in the classroom with who it matters most, our students. Thank you for listening.
Troy, thank you. I'd like to hear from Ken DeCoster on Big Fork Advisory Committee issues.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to give an update just on what the Big Fork School Advisory Committee has been working on. One of the charges of that committee is to give regular reports to the board. We do have some board representation that's able to be there. Sometimes Mr. Schroeder, Mr. Gustafson, and we appreciate that. Superintendent Gross is in attendance when he's able to as well, and that's most of the time. This is a committee that really is centered around what we can do for improvements at Big Fork School in partnership with Big Fork community and without incurring extra cost to the district. A couple of things that were discussed at last month's meeting, and Mr. Gustus, Mr. Gross, if I missed something, feel free to jump in, but we're an update on music chairs. In our band room, actual music chairs were non-existent. We had one or two, that was it. Through networking and some good networking from one of the stakeholders in our committee, we were able to secure some gently used but appropriate band chairs so that we now have the proper furniture for an actual band room, which we're very, very happy about. Another thing that happened at last month's meeting was that I gave an update on some project-based learning. Superintendent Gross had arranged for a guest speaker earlier this year. This team and committee kind of talked about some of the things that Big Fork School is already doing that would fit under that project-based kind of learning umbrella. Again, enhancing partnerships with the community and also trying to promote different student opportunity without, again, incurring more costs, but making it relevant for our students. So I gave an update on that. We're actually partnering and collaborating a little bit with a district just over the North Dakota border called North Cass School District, and they've been doing some of this stuff for quite a while. So we've exchanged some emails, we've had a virtual meeting, and I'm working on securing some funding so that a small team of mine can go out and do a visit to see how else we can get more mileage out of some project-based things that would be relevant to our students. And lastly, we worked on priorities. Earlier this year, we identified several priorities within the school that we felt like the community could have some impact on as well. And with this committee, we've got parents, we've got faculty members, we've got community members. We have a strong partnership with the Edge Performing Arts Center up there. And we identified a number of priorities. One of them, the first one we tackled, was a strong and comprehensive K-12 music program. It's been something that has dwindled and eroded in Big Fork, and we've been working hard at getting that a little more robust. And so at the last meeting, we divided out into groups. Each group had an identified area to do some brainstorming on, identify things kind of in two categories. What can we do? What are some things we can do in the next 6 months? And what are things that we should really be focusing on achieving in the next 3 to 5 years? Each of those committees reported out after that. They identified some very relevant, some very accomplishable goals to be able to set. So at this next month's meeting, when we come back together, my anticipation would be that we'll be doing a little bit more discussion about those specific brainstorming ideas, and then hopefully doing some action planning around that before we move to our next priority area. And that was the gist of our meeting. Are there any questions?
Questions from the board?
Right. Thank you.
Ken, thank you very much for that update.
Yeah, I just
Oh,
would
I'm
add
sorry.
a comment quick though that I have enjoyed the committee. I think I really like what I see going on there with the community's involvement. He mentioned the chairs, right? Chairs saved the district a lot of money if we were to go out there and buy those brand new, a lot of money.
They're surprisingly expensive.
And they've got a band going because of it, right? And I
Right.
really appreciate what I've seen there, I guess is what I'm saying. So
Tom, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ken, thank you again. With that, we have a few minutes yet to hear a principal's report from East Rapids Elementary. Jill Wheelock.
A few minutes, I will be quick. Well, there's so many things to share, but I narrowed it down to 3 things. The first thing is PBIS is going great at East. We are in year 1 of implementation of our PBIS reward system. So students, it's an online that the teachers can reward points for being responsible, respectful, safe, and kind, which are the 4 things we work on every day and model for the students. And it's been great to see the staff really engaged in this process and recognizing positive student behavior. Our school store is online, and we have a parent volunteer that comes in and works with the students, which has been very helpful. I don't know if we could do it without her. And the top things that kids purchase in our store are things that pay it forward. They save their own points and they buy things like hat day for the class, pizza party for the class. It's really cool. It's a lot of class-wide things, which is really neat to see across the school. Of course, they do like to have their candlelight lunch with me. And it's been fun to sit down with the different kids as I'm new there and get to know them and have that conversation, and 30 usually uninterrupted time to spend time with the kids. And another popular one is game time with Mrs. Connolly. That's a hot item. Second thing, MCAs. This is the first time in a building it's been all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So all of our kids in Grand Rapids, minus Cohasset and Big Fork, are all in one building during testing time. So you can imagine the work, the amount of hours that many people at East have put in for our schedule. It is a high level of detail this year. We've never had to do it before. The spreadsheets that the team has made has been incredible. It has surpassed my expectations. And so I'm very thankful for Mrs. Connolly and the intervention staff that have put in the detail that needs to be there. We'll see how it goes. Also thankful for West. All the iPads from West had to be shipped over to East. So I think we're -1 for iPads for students. So we feel like we're doing pretty well. And that will take up the entire month of April and we'll go into May. So it is a great endeavor for our whole building for the first time to have that at elementary. So stay tuned on how that goes. The third thing is implementation of our new ELA curriculum, Wit and Wisdom. We're in year 1, and it's been great to have the support of Mrs. Kopp, working with PD with our teams, unpacking modules, and just being there to help if principals have questions or really anybody. Walkthroughs have been occurring on a weekly basis. So that's Mr. Linner and myself getting into the classrooms, and it's been great to see, we can see evidence of implementation by the staff teaching it, and then the kids and just how they've grown and their knowledge of literacy has been really incredible. Our winter screening data this last winter showed an increase in achievement in both reading and math from the fall. We'll take small percentage points. Some grade levels had a 2% increase, to some had almost up to 5, which is huge in the elementary world. We have one more screening period in May after MCAs, and we're very hopeful that that increase will continue to grow. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any notes, comments for?
I
Rachel?
just want to say thank you to you and the staff there, especially with PBIS, because you know, you do sometimes notice with the gen ed kids as opposed to the special education kids, you know, does everybody get involved in that? And they do, and it's really nice to see. And so I appreciate that everybody is given that opportunity. And then also just I appreciate the candlelight lunches with you. I know my own child has done it twice now, and she absolutely loves it. And she loves that opportunity to have that personal moment with you and get to know you. And and it just makes those kids feel very special. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. I've had the opportunity to do kind of walkthroughs in East, and I'm just constantly impressed with the positive energy and the engagement of the students there. Hats off to your teaching staff and to your students. They're doing remarkable work with our students. Much appreciated.
I'm more so than anything, just a question in regards to the
Sure.
PBIS. It's a mouthful, I guess. But, with previously they used to have like a Thunderhawk Award type thing, didn't they? Is that kind of in lieu of that? Is that my understanding, or am I misunderstanding?
It is. So it's just the way you recognize students can be done with a paper ticket. We have it online so that we notice staff are spending time writing. So for ease of them, they can click being safe, responsible, respectful.
So you
and
just
then
tried to automate it, basically, it sounds like, or?
Yep, and they can write a comment. And then the other piece is the parents are hooked up and they have an app. So that school home connection is stronger, because the tickets often would get lost on the bus or somehow disappear. So that wasn't always getting home. So the parents have really that they can see and say, oh, I noticed you got a point for being responsible. Tell me about that. And then also lunch staff can give them, I can give them, just other staff that aren't the classroom teacher. And so that's been helpful.
No,
Yes,
that
great
helps
question.
clarify. I appreciate that.
Yep.
And then the other thing, so right now our early indicators are that we've had increases in our reading and math. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Pretty much across the board. Any?
Nope, we've slowly gone up all across 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and this has been shared with the building too, at staff meetings. And so we're just hoping for that steady increase.
Okay.
So we should, if we've been doing that so far this year, but
Good news.
yeah,
Thank you.
we're hopeful, and the staff have been working really hard. So I have no doubt in my mind.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you. Any other notes, comments, questions for Jill? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yes,
Keep up the great work.
thank you.
With that, we'll take a break. We'll recess for 4 minutes and call our school board meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We got notice, the chair, Mark Schroeder, is absent with notice today. We also note that Melissa Barr is absent from tonight's meeting. With that, we will look at the agenda. I need a motion for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Move, Dave. Second.
Second.
Second from Ashley. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign, opposed. The agenda is approved as presented. Our first action item is on equitable changes. We were expecting a report from Josh Whitmore. I don't see Josh. Do we see Josh?
He hasn't connected to the Google Meet yet, so we can move on and.
Okay, we will reschedule that for if he shows up later in this meeting, we'll consider it here, or we will postpone it to our next board meeting. There's an action item there that we need to address. Second, under equitable education is to approve the creation of online learning programs and directing the superintendent to make necessary agreements and arrangements. This is something we've chatted about. Matt, can you speak to that?
Yes, thank you. In the previous two meetings, we talked about online learning and have shared the why and our proposed approach, as well as the potential for the program to increase enrollment and return some students back to our school district. While we're going to take a measured approach, I've received feedback from a number of parents who have heard about this, currently homeschool, and they're looking forward to having an option should we continue to move forward. We're in the process currently of putting some handbooks together and ironing out some more details. And I've had a number of conversations with teacher union leadership and continue to stay committed to the priority to have our teachers teach the online classes as soon as people are ready, have the training they need, and we have the students we need to make classes work and have it be a financially beneficial model. So having our teachers teach the classes is the goal, whether that's continuing on this process and starting small and growing it or whatever that needs to look like. At our last meeting, I was asked to prepare some performance indicators that we'd gather data on in order to measure success. I've shared those with you, things like academic performance, attendance, engagement, student and family perception, et cetera. And so those were shared with you and included. What I'm looking for tonight is a motion to approve the creation of an online learning program and directing me to make the necessary agreements and arrangements to put that program in place. Obviously, there would be updates as they would continue to come and we work through the planning. This just ensures that while we're working on this, we can do so knowing that we have organized and official board support.
I'm looking for a motion to accept, to direct the superintendent to make agreements and arrangements for online learning.
So moved.
A motion from Ashley, a second.
Second.
Second from Dave. This is something we've discussed at some length. Any questions or comments in this regard?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just thank Superintendent Gross for addressing the concerns we had about the metrics that we'll use to gauge the effectiveness of the program. I think in the world that we live in, we continue to have to meet students where they are. And I think this is a great way that we can offer Grand Rapids learning to Grand Rapids kids in a way that we haven't been able to date. So thank you for that. And I look forward to seeing where this program can go.
Dave, thank you. Other notes or comments before we call for a vote? Julie, we don't need a voice vote on this, do we? All in favor of the motion to direct the superintendent to make necessary agreements and arrangements for online learning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I'm opposed.
Noted that Tom Gustafson is opposed. The motion passes. Superintendent Gross, you are directed to make the arrangements as noted. We move on to stewardship of resources. We look at the minutes of the March 3rd board meeting. Need a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
Make a motion.
Tom made a motion, second.
Second.
Second by Dave. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes as presented for March 3rd signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The minutes stand approved. Thank you. Approval for the February 2025 claims in the amount of $5,761,834.16.
So moved.
Moved by the treasurer, Dave. Second. Second, Ashley. Any questions or comments in that regard? All those in favor of claims as presented signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The claims are approved as presented. We then have the consent agenda. All matters listed in the consent agenda are staff-related or considered routine and do not require discussion. These items will be acted upon together in one motion. If discussion is desired on any particular item, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately by the board. And I will note that one item, the resolution relating to probationary teacher non-renewals, would normally be considered on the consent agenda. It has been removed so that can be considered separately. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda with with one resolution removed?
So moved.
I have a motion from Dave,
Second.
second from Ashley. All in favor? No discussion is allowed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. These changes are approved. And then we have a resolution relating to probationary teacher non-renewals. Casey, may you speak to this, please?
Yes, thank you. So we do this annually, this process to non-renew those probationary teachers is defined in statute 122A40, subdivision 5. We have done this every year. There's a number of people, the majority of the people on the list, 11 out of the 15, are related to licensure. And that's very typical for us, where we have a number of people that we're required to have a posting for a number of days by the Pellsby Licensing Board in order to obtain a license for those individuals. You'll see we do not have any unrequested leave of absences, so all the staff are probationary. And I can read the names for you if you'd like.
Yes, that would be appropriate, please.
Okay. We have Brenda Broberg, Ryan Christensen, Wendy Gray, Ann Hutner, Mallory Matheson, Tiffany Morgan, Christine Nemi, Summer Opachich, Charmaine Seeley, Sherry Trombley, Kayla Wass, Simon Wilson, Elliot Wolfson, Rachel Newman is a part-time .3 non-renewal, and Benjamin Panchishan is a .2 part-time non-renewal. I'm recommending approval of the non-renewals of the probationary staff.
And these people have all received a notice of termination.
Correct. They received a notice of the intent to ask the board to approve the non-renewals.
Okay. Do we have any comments or questions for Casey in this regard?
Yeah, I have one question, Casey. With the folks listed here, do you have any idea how many you think will still be coming back next year? Or is there a pathway? I believe there's at least one, right, that's coming back. Of these that are listed, do we see a pathway for some or all of them to come back?
The majority of them, yes. We have, so 11 out of the 15 are licensure related. It is very typical that after the posting timelines, many of, if not all of them, will return. And then the part-time ones, similarly, those are licensed as well, where we have some posting requirements for just a portion of their day. So I would estimate 80 to 90% of them will be back in some capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dave, excellent question. Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we take a vote on this? I think we need a motion, don't we? I need a motion relating to probationary teacher non-renewal.
So moved.
Moved by Ashley, and a second. A second by Tom. This will require a voice vote. Julie?
David Marty,
Yes.
Tom Gustafson,
Yes.
Ashley Goodman,
Yes.
and Dave Cowan.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. The probationary teachers are effectively non-renewed, and we're looking forward to our future there. We need to approve health insurance premiums and payment plan for 2025 to 2026. Casey?
Yeah, so before you have a report from our Fringe Benefit Committee Chair and our Benefits Coordinator. I'm going to summarize kind of some of the highlights. A couple of the changes this year, the main one, most of you probably remember, but we changed our plan year to align with our fiscal year. So this will be the first time that we will be able to do open enrollment yet this spring while our teachers and staff are still in the buildings. It also allows us to get these premiums known and into the budget for the new year instead of estimating those. So this is a different timeline than normal. The recommendation from the committee, so we're in our 2-year HIDA review. We went out to the marketplace with help from our consultant, One Digital. We received bids from Health Partners, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and PEEP. And based on the bids and reviewing our claims data, there's 2 recommendations. One is a renewal with Health Partners for a 2-year renewal. All of the other companies that did bid on our plan came out higher, so we would recommend staying with them. We haven't heard a lot of negative comments on Health Partners itself. And just a reminder that we are only bidding our stop loss premiums and our administrative fees because we are self-insured. So there isn't a lot of cost savings there by moving, but it was bid out and that was the low bid. And then the second recommendation is a premium increase of 6.5% for the 25-26 plan year. That is, the standard premium increase right now is about 8 to 10, so we are below market there, and the cost for employees will be around $7 per month for single and $15 for family. So pretty small increase. And there will also be a small increase in the deductibles that is required in order to remain embedded, which employees will then see a small increase in their HSAs. Any questions on that?
Casey, thank you. We'll need a motion to accept the recommendation of the Fringe Benefits Committee for a 2-year renewal with Health Partners and a 6.5% increase in premiums for the 25-26 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Dave. Second?
Second.
second by Ashley. Any questions, comments?
I have one question. Casey, so we have 6.5% for 25, 26. Will we then decide an increase for the subsequent year, next year?
Correct, yep. And some of the stuff we have caps on, so we know there can only be so much of an increase in stop loss and those things, but we will wait to see the claims data until we approve rates next year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions regarding the fringe benefits? We don't need a voice, individual vote. All in favor of accepting the recommendation of the fringe committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The recommendation has been accepted. Casey, thank you very much for your work in this regard.
Thank you.
We move on to the FY26 district budget reductions. Matt, can you speak to this, please?
Thank you. I wanted to run through some budgeting and planning information quickly and then walk through the proposed budget adjustments for the fall tonight. As we've stated many times, the goal as we work through this is financial stability and health. And the reason that's important is that we want our teaching environment and our learning environment to be stable and consistent. We think our staff deserve that, our kids deserve that. That's important so kids can grow and thrive. And that can only happen when we're financially stable and healthy as a school district. In order to do that, I've talked about this quite a bit. We need to do three things. One is balance the budget. I've talked about that numerous times. We balanced the budget in fiscal 23, 24, and this will, we're headed towards fiscal 25 being balanced as well. The second thing is build our fund balance, and we've done that. We've gone from 1.6% in fiscal 22 to 10.2 in fiscal 24. We'll be near that again when we round out this year, so that's important. And we need to do these things without cuts, and we need to do these things without revenue like COVID. So that's sort of the big factor, that third one. We need to be in a position where we can do these things without having to make reductions, so we don't have to do this every spring. I've also talked about this, that in order to balance our budget, four things are on the table for us: more students and enrollment, more money from the state, which if you're watching the news is not an optimistic time, getting more community financial support, like over 70% of the rest of the districts in the state have done. We tried in 2023 and we'll need to try again at some point. Number four, and this is the button that we've had to push often and to great extent over the last 5 years, and that's to cut expenses, which is difficult when most of our budget is people. How are we doing with the money that we do receive? Any narrative that the district is not taking care of the revenue that we have is just not based on evidence. Standard & Poor's has increased their outlook from negative to stable for our school district. That's an external sign that we're doing what we should do with the money that we do have, and that our plan is important and we're executing it. Our financial audits also indicate that we're doing what we should do with the money that we do get. We've received the cleanest opinion auditors can give, and we've been classified as a low-risk auditee the last 2 years. So external validation indicating that we are doing what we're supposed to do with the money that we get. Second, we did get some updated information, the profiles report. I think I've mentioned this before. The updated fiscal 24 profiles report indicated that we've continued our trend in the school district of earning less per student than statewide average, both locally and from the state. We earn less revenue from those two sources per student. We also spend less. And so our spend was up 3%, while the state average is up almost 6% from fiscal 23. So our spend didn't go up as fast as the state. We spend less, we get less. That trend continues. So we're living as much as we can within our means, even though these times are challenging. And I would, to Ms. Wheelock's point and to the commentary of staff, we have really, really good people working really, really hard. And as a result, despite what we've had to do, we haven't seen dramatic decreases in our student achievement, and that just goes to speak to the people we have working here. It hasn't come without work and hard decisions and sacrifice. After tonight, we'll be looking tonight's totals at just under 10 million in reductions, 80 positions eliminated. We've changed health insurance plan. All of our employees agreed to do that. That was a tough lift. I mentioned the balanced budget. I also believe we used our COVID funds in a way that preserved jobs and delayed or helped eliminate cuts that we would have been able or would have had to make. Our fund balance history shows the work too, or as an evidence of that work. You can see in fiscal 22 down to 1.6%. The reason for the two lines, again, MDE has a calculation that they use for fund balance percentage. Our fund balance graph, the green line, is based on how we've defined fund balance in our policy. It's a simpler calculation that anyone could do with if they had a copy of our audit. From 1.6% in fiscal 22 to around 10% here in fiscal 24, that's audited, and fiscal 25 obviously is not audited yet, but up to where our school board set the policy. That's a good sign. Having a fund balance obviously is really, really important because it enables us to sort of weather some of the changes. Ms. Sperling talked about the state and uncertainty. Without any fund balance, we would not be able to have any room for or any margin there for change. And so fund balance is really important for stability and for everybody.
Also got to be a factor for cash flow.
Yeah, and cash flow. And I've lived through, CARES lived through having to, as a school district, borrow money to make payroll. And that's a pretty terrible place to be. So yeah, for cash flow too, it's important to have a fund balance. It's positive. Thanks, Tom. Like we've done previously, we reviewed our previous situation, looking at data. We came up with assumptions. The board approved those earlier in the year based on known and unknown. Things have changed since January. We've talked about that at previous meetings, and we've reflected some of that in the reductions that and adjustments that have gone out or that you'll be considering. And then we use that to consider the amount necessary or drive that number, while also not sacrificing our stability. At the district level, this is really about revenue enhancement. And so we talked about enrollment, and that being one of the things we need to do if we're going to have some control about what our revenues or our balanced budget looks like. And so we did make an adjustment here between those two numbers, kept the total the same. We adjusted the compensatory assumption. Again, like Ms. Sperling talked about, there's been some changes at the state level around compensatory or the feeling about how compensatory might play out. And so made some adjustments there. And if those continue to come in, we can have conversations about what that would mean realistically and how that would affect our ability to plan. At the high school, as was referenced earlier, a 0.6 FTE cut in social, and that would result in increased class sizes. Mrs. Velocity talked about also would result in some shift. I don't believe in all of economics going away from social studies. So there would still be some social studies economics happening, but changes to social studies classes and offerings for sure. Working on some CTE reimbursement. We have the ability to generate revenue or generate reimbursement in career and tech ed. And so ensuring that we're increasing that or maximizing that to the degree that we can. And then also a 0.2 reduction in ag going from 2.2 to 2.0 FTEs in ag. At the middle school, a reduction in math, social, science, and English of 0.2. Those will primarily come, I believe, in the 7th grade or affect 7th grade class sizes. And then also in Phi Ed, shifting a 0.2 regular ed Phi Ed to special education, which will increase the class sizes in those Phi Eds, but improve services to students with disabilities. Special education enables us to generate reimbursement, and so that helps in that case. East and West and Cohasset, 1.0 FTE. This is a fourth grade section. It's the only remaining grade level at East with 8 sections. Grade 3 and grade 5 have 7. Grade 4 would see a class size average up 1 to 2. Grade 5 would see a class size average go up of 1 to 2. Actually, third grade next year would go down 1 to 2 because the incoming this year's second grade cohort's a little bit smaller. So things would improve there a little bit for third grade, but overall, that's how that would play out. Big Fork, taking advantage of some of what we've been able to do with collaboration, a 0.2 reduction in math, and then also, again, ensuring that we're maximizing reimbursement, working on the revenue side of the equation too, seeing an increase there. Activities, we'd be looking at percentages in line items in uniforms, supplies, and transportation, an amount totaling $20,000. Across the district, that means an adjustment of $971 by the time we look at revenues and expenditures. With respect to one of the questions that came up, our overall reduction in the last 5 years from our teaching unit has been approximately 14 to 15% of that unit. In our categories labeled other administration and principals, there's been a reduction of around 20%. So that group has seen reductions as a percentage. There's fewer people in that group. So those numbers are difficult to compare, but as a percentage, our teacher group has gone from about 47% of our employees to about 46% of our employees over that time, including this cut for these proposed reductions. Some other items to note, looking forward, communication, Casey mentioned last Friday, those going out. The process that we go through, one of the things I've learned is there's no good and easy way to do this. And it's challenging when you have 11 educational sites, when you have 600 employees, when you have some employees that would prefer a face-to-face conversation, and for some employees, the last thing they want to do is have someone talking to them about a change in their assignment. And so we came up with a process with our teachers union that we've been using. We've made some modifications to that. We've adjusted the language we use in the letters. Is it perfect? I don't know that there is one, because this is just a tough thing to do no matter what. And we'll continue to work with them to refine the process so that it is predictable and respectful. Ongoing conversations this week, people with questions, communicating with Casey or their building admin. Looking forward, I'm anticipating that over the next couple months, we'll see some changes come. We'll see some people who might take a position somewhere else. We might see some people resign. We'll see some adjustments be made. And so those adjustments will be made if opportunities present themselves throughout the spring and summer, so that we're in the best position we can be in the future. I get asked a lot about the federal impact, Department of Education impact, and it's difficult to talk specifics about that. But on a broad level, we depend on federal funds. Minnesota depends on federal funds a great deal. All school districts do. Special education is a big component of that. Low-income student support is a big component of that. In our district, we use Title I funds to support reading interventions and instructional programs in our state or our district and others. Career and Tech Ed is a federal program as well through Perkins. And so that's a program that supports a lot of our Career and Tech Ed. And so reductions there would impact that program. It also makes it difficult to do the work we're doing right now, to budget, plan for the future, and think long-term when there's uncertainty about the Department of Education in general. Some other things just long-term that we need to be thinking about, our staff need to be thinking about, our community needs to be thinking about and knowing. We have to continue to act and think conservatively. Future reductions will be needed without additional revenue because our expenses will continue to go up. Our staffing costs go up automatically. Inflation goes up automatically. And so without infusion of revenue that at this point is unforeseen, it's going to be challenging to move forward without some reductions. Now, we've seen a drastic reduction in the amount of reductions we've had to make, and that's because of the work that's happened. And so I think that's an indication that we put ourselves in the right path. But like many, if not most of the school districts in the state of Minnesota, this is an ongoing issue. If you read the newspaper and listen to the news, you'll hear about that, especially our neighbors now that are making reductions that maybe haven't in the last few years. School funding hasn't kept pace with increasing costs. And we've talked quite a bit at the board table about the mandates. I think there's an awareness of that at the legislative level, but also some resistance to backing off on some of those. So a lot to be seen this spring still. Most districts have gotten additional funding from their communities, and we have not. There's no way around the fact that over 70% of the school districts in the state have gotten additional assistance. We don't have access to that. That's affecting our budget. There's just no way around that. The last one is, I guess, my opinion as much as anything. I do not believe the state will balance our budget for us. I don't believe they're going to fix our problem. I think we need to control the things that we can control locally. I think that's where the best decisions are made. And so I think that leads to a need to continue to educate, work with, and get support from our community. Questions?
I guess, when do we start talking about 4-day weeks? I see 2142's taking it on, and that's one way we can really control our costs.
I think that'll be something that we need to look at this upcoming year. I don't think for our district there's a ton of savings there, but at the same time, if there are any savings there, we have to look at it.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it.
Yeah. So I think that's something that we need to work through the process. It takes some time, and the districts that have done the best job of it have had, the opportunity to talk to their community a number of times. Some of those are required. It's required to engage the community in that discussion. And so I think that's something we're going to have to look at this upcoming year.
I think we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah. And it might speak to some of the things that Mr. Gunderson brought up earlier about time. I know that's one of the things that is brought up in that area a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the effort for the online schooling, right? I had other concerns in regards to that ultimately, but I appreciate it was looked at for financing, and I appreciate that very much. But, it's becoming apparent that the things we can control are costs, and unfortunately they're not fun things to control, right? Because they're cuts.
Right.
But,
and this would be an easier conversation if this were the first year we were having a discussion about it, but it's not. We're in the fifth year or sixth year of cuts.
Yeah, even though the number is smaller, it's very difficult because of how much we've done. We get to the point where we're talking about things that maybe aren't things we would have talked about or discussed just a couple of years ago.
At this point, let's look for a motion. It was on the screen.
So moved.
Have a motion from Dave to direct the FY26 district budget reductions. Do I have a second? Second from Tom. Conversation, questions, concerns, thoughts beyond what's already been expressed?
My only concern, and we've all already said this out loud, is that the cuts that we're making are obviously cuts that are necessary, but that we don't want to actually have happen. We would love nothing more than to keep every single one of our staff members. We don't want to get rid of anything that affects them in a negative light, in a negative manner, that affects our students. And I just want that to be known to our staff members, that this is not something that we're just doing. It weighs heavy on all of us, and that you are all important to us. And we do very much appreciate all of you. And so when we vote on this, it's not something that I just don't want any of you to feel like this is something that we are voting on because it's a personal. It's not. It's just difficult, and I don't really know how to express that enough. So I just wanted to let our staff know that we do absolutely support you, and this is not something that feels like it, but that we do.
Ashley, thank you. Any other?
Yeah, I would just like to echo a bit of what Ashley was saying, but I think that, you know, when we were all elected to these positions, these were the days that we dread, where we have to make the tough choices that have to be made, but that set up our district for the ability to move forward. We are between a rock and a hard place, and these are the things that we have to do. And unfortunately, year after year after year, we continue to get less revenue, and we need to find a way to break this cycle of cuts, because soon there will be no more to cut. And so with thanks to Superintendent Gross for coming up with a way to move forward, even though it is one that impacts our kids and our staff negatively. I see this as a necessary evil that we have to do to move forward.
Thank you, Dave. Other questions or comments? Note of appreciation, Matt and Kara, for the tremendous amount of work you've done. I know that you've been through this budget many times looking for alternatives. And this was not taken lightly.
Thank you.
With that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of the FY26 district budget reduction program signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Mr. Superintendent, you are directed to move forward with the district budget reduction program. Thank you. We are looking for a resolution for Safe Routes to School Boost Grant. Melanie, can you speak to that, please?
So this is a grant we have had in the past, and we had a Safe Route to School Coordinator grant for 4 years. We did not receive funding for this last year, and we were able to partner with the county to keep our Safe Routes to School Coordinator on, which that county partnership was able to keep a part-time position in the Safe Routes to School position, who kept trudging forward and working on Safe Routes to School initiatives with county support. This past winter, we applied for a boost grant to keep our coordinator in place for an additional year. So it's a 1-year grant, and this position will continue to promote our walk, roll, bike to school events and awareness in our community. We have the 2 bike fleets that are striders that are in our kindergarten, first grade classrooms in the gym time. So this position will keep those moving throughout Itasca area, not just the Grand Rapids Big Fork schools, but across IS schools. They'll promote our national walk and bike roll to school days. We have 2 traffic gardens at East and West, and this boost grant will provide additional traffic gardens at Cohasset, and Big Fork parking lot was not big enough, but it will be, one will be at Cohasset and the other one will be at the new Nashwauk Keewatin school. This boost grant is a partnership with Nashwauk Keewatin as well. We will provide those traffic gardens and free events at the traffic gardens. And then the most exciting part not that it's not all exciting, but we were able to, within this grant, we're able to purchase 8 adaptive bikes for a program that's called All Abilities Bike. So it is an more adult size Strider bike that we can incorporate into our fitness classes and our schools in our middle school and high school age levels of individuals learning to ride a bike or able to ride a 2-wheel bike in our adapted PE classes, but also including them into our regular PE classes when we get the Get Fit bikes. So the Get Fit bikes are a trailer of bikes that we bring into the middle school gym classes, and kids are able to bike during the day and learn how to bike or safety around biking. These All Abilities bikes will be brought into that program as well to have all kids being able to bike during the school day. And we'll use them in our summer programs and across the IS schools as well. So that boost grant is $27,820 for a 1-year grant.
Questions for Melanie?
And that's able to cover our entire costs for that
Yeah.
position?
Yep. The position is a part-time, 10 hours a week position
Okay.
under the community ed umbrella.
We're looking for a motion to approve the Safe Routes to Schools Boost Grant.
So moved.
Moved by Ashley and a second.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions, comments, or concerns related to this? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of the resolution for the Safe Routes to School Booster Grant signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. And go forward and make the routes to school safe. We have still in the Safe Routes to School world, a contract bid for Safe Routes to School parking lot construction at our gyms. Casey, Kara, can you?
Yeah, good evening, board. And what a great lead into this. That position's limited hours. Ann Campbell was able to get us a grant for $469,000 to redo the RGEM's parking lot to make it safer. So we did get a grant in that amount. We went out for bids. We had an engineer estimate of $445,000 to redo that parking lot. Our bids came in above that. The lowest bid was $497,000. We got bids from TNT, KGM Contractors, and William J. Schwartz and Son. William J. Schwartz was the lowest bidder at $497,000, which is above our grant amount by $28,000. So Matt and I have looked at our budget. We have restricted funds. We have long-term facilities maintenance fund balance from the prior year that we can put towards this grant. So if the board approves this, we would make up that delta, that $28,000 from this LTFM funding that can't be used, for staffing or other areas. So I'm recommending the approval of the lowest bidder, William J. Schwartz and Son.
Looking for a motion to approve.
Can I ask some questions?
We'll take a motion and then discuss it, please. We're looking for Safe Routes to School parking lot construction grant for RGEMS. I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Dave and a second.
Second.
Second by Ashley. Questions or comments? Tom?
I apologize because I meant to get a couple questions out this weekend and I didn't. But when we talk about the $28,000 delta here, do we know what kind of class estimate the engineering service Winseth provided on their first? I guess where my concern comes in ultimately is they were 40,000 below our lowest bid on their engineer's estimate. Okay. Anytime you go out to construction to your lowest bid, oftentimes there's a chance that they're going to have extras coming in because they underbid it and misunderstood it, right? You know, so what I want to do is make sure that, first of all, I'm questioning Winseth, why they were off on that. You know, especially when we start talking about public, you know, they should have been somewhere in the middle of those bids, not below the lowest, right? If we get a good estimate, I mean, we need to be budget. And my second thing is I'm very concerned that we're already making up 28. I don't want it to grow to 78 that we're trying to make up out of funds that we don't know somewhere. So do we have construction support right now with engineering as part of their contract on this? Are they monitoring the construction at all, or is that going to be us doing it completely?
Yeah, us and with Seth would monitor it, mainly us.
Yeah.
I can tell you when with Seth put together their engineering estimate, MnDOT, because they oversee this grant, and the city of Grand Rapids, Matt Wegworth, went over it. MnDOT had a lot of concerns with the initial engineer estimate, and it had to be cleaned up to their approval. So this has gone through MnDOT's approval, the engineer estimate. So I'm not a construction person.
No, I
so
understand. And
yeah.
I am, you know, I'm
Yes,
coming from the
yes.
engineering
No, I'm
side,
glad.
so I'm
Yeah.
trying to ask and don't take this as,
No.
I'm trying to cover ourselves because I can see, I don't want this to grow. I mean, like I say, I don't want it to be 78 or 100,000 we're trying to make up for because we took the lowest bid and they misunderstood what this involved and come back for extras, right? Which is what you see a lot of times out of that lowest bid. So, you know, and again, I apologize. I meant to get these out this weekend and have some more discussion on this. I'm kind of curious. You commented that the state really pushed them on that initial estimate. Was theirs lower before Winseth, that their initial one, or how did that kind of change?
Yeah, so and Matt, feel free to jump in at any time. What I remember is the state looking at how Winseth had some of the items on this estimate listed out. Like, for instance, they had some stuff as lump sum, whereas the state was like, no, you need to break that out into units so that the pricing was more clear with the individuals that were bidding on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was their biggest hang up. DOTs was, you know, should something be unit priced per truck, for instance, or is there a flat dollar amount per, you know, for the aggregate or whatever the, you know, human is. So they had some back and forth about that, what approach was the best approach for this project.
Which obviously, anytime you get a unit cost like that, if it goes over, you have something to compare it to, right? Which is important, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just throwing one lump sum in there. They could throw some ungodly overage in there and pull numbers out of anywhere. Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I guess I had initially here. And
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
yes, please.
Carrick, what type of contract is this? Is this a time and materials or a guaranteed maximum price, or do we know what type of contract it is?
I appreciate your question. It is just a construction contract for the services and the materials listed in it.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm answering your question, Dave.
No, but that's okay. We can look later. I'm just curious because I think that would address Tom's question. If it's a GMP, there's not a risk to the district that we go over, but if it's not, there is. And so maybe we can look at that later.
Well, and even in other ones,
could.
they say
There's a
it
retained
wasn't clear in the scope, right? You know,
but it's better.
but I agree. I agree.
Right.
Just to clarify too, and reiterate, while we're talking about this delta here, Kara mentioned that delta being covered by long-term facilities maintenance. Those are funds that we would use for something like resurfacing the parking lot somewhere. So since we're not going to need to resurface the parking lot, at the middle school because the bid would cover bituminous. That's sort of part of what enables us to do things, even seal coating, or replacing curb that we maybe would replace with LTFM funds. Again, that can't be used on people, has to be used on projects. We wouldn't need to do that because curb would be part of the project. So kind of enables us to do some of that.
Other questions, concerns?
Where did our engineering costs from this come out? And they really aren't kind of considered in our overall budget here, are they, right
They're
now?
not, because they weren't allowed to be included in the grant. So the
Okay.
grant said we had to pay for the engineering fees ourselves.
Okay.
So, do you remember? I don't remember what they were.
Okay.
But I can provide you with the documentation that I have on that.
I guess where I'm at is I would really like to be able to look at a couple of these questions.
Sure.
And again, I apologize that I didn't get those out this weekend. But I would really like to know what that contract is before we say approve it myself, but that's where I sit. But
Is there a time constraint here if we tabled this?
I think the big thing is getting through the bidding process. Schwartz knows that they're the low bidder. They were at the bid opening, right? So I think in terms of scheduling, having it on their calendar, I think that's the big thing, right? So I think if we were to table this, get some of those questions answered, I think that, our next meeting is in 2 weeks, Julie. Yeah, so I think that's probably fine.
and in regards to the grant, does it have any effect on that, or the funds from that?
The time, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We have time. We have it. We have at least a year on that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. I think we would need a
Do we
motion.
want to-
We'd need to withdraw that motion and have that second.
I think we can just move to table this and leave the motion. I don't think we have to withdraw.
Okay.
We move to table it.
One more comment I'd like to just make is regardless of where this goes, I just want to say thank you to Ann Campbell for the support
Yeah.
of getting this grant. What an incredible thing for our district. So thank you to her.
Excellent.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know since my arrival here, the pickup and drop off and parking situation and whatever at our gyms has been something that I've heard complaints
It's horrible.
about forever and ever. So the fact that, almost $500,000 grant came in to help us pay for that is, you're right. Thanks for bringing that up.
Good. Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
I have a motion to table the motion.
Ashley.
Ashley, how long do we want to table it?
Oh,
I have no problem looking
Until
at it
next
next
meeting.
month. Yeah,
Until our
as long
next
as we
board
can get
meeting?
the Information.
That we have to. is that-
Yep.
April
Yeah.
22nd?
Yeah.
Was it April 22nd?
Do I have a second?
A work session,
have
right?
one.
Is that a work session or a meeting?
Tom, would you prefer next month?
Oh. I mean, that's probably
We good?
still enough time.
Yeah, as long as I can
Yeah.
see that. I'm just,
Yep.
there
Yep.
were some
I don't-
questions there that I
Yep.
just really would feel
Let's
comfortable.
get
knowing.
that squared away.
Ashley has a motion to table it. Do I have a second?
April 7th, correct? Yep. Okay.
Second.
I have a second from Dave. Discussion on the motion to table. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to table the grant agreement for our gems, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Let the minutes reflect that the motion will be, is tabled until our April 7th board meeting.
Yes.
We also have a Safe Routes to School grant agreement, active transportation program grant resolution. Kara? you're on a
Yeah,
roll.
can we table this until, I need to have the bid approved prior to this agreement. So can we just table this also till the next board meeting?
If we don't have a motion on it, it will you can just move forward. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
I have general agreement on that. We're good. Kara, thank you. A lot of work on that. Capital assessment listing. Kara, you're still on the hot
Yeah.
seat.
So this is just a procedure in accordance with our capital asset policy 704. Once a year, I need to provide you with details of our capital assets. These are our capital assets as of 12/31/2024. At the end of our audit last year at June 30th, 2024, we had $217 million in capital assets and $68 million in associated accumulated depreciation. So you should have in front of you in that long list are detailed assets. There are assets on there that have been disposed of but have not been removed from the list yet because we typically do that at year end. So you may see items on there. You will see items on there like our old admin building or the land we have sold since July 1st. So this is just, like I said, just an FYI for you and in accordance with our policy.
So do we need to accept this listing?
You can just note that you got it.
Okay. The listing is here. Are there any questions related to this capital? It's pages. Lots of assets.
Yep.
Any questions for Kara?
Not a question, but just a kind of a comment. I think that although these are assets listed for the district, what I think is kind of a shout out to our incredible boosters across the different activities, that there are assets that the district has here that were provided by fundraising from boosters clubs across our activities range. And so a special shout out to all of the booster clubs that have helped bridge gaps that the district struggled with getting funding for. So
Great.
Thank you, Dave. Any other notes related to our capital asset list? If none, Kara, thank you very much. Appreciate all your work in this regard. And we move on to the first reading of 704 development maintenance. Matt.
While we're on the subject of fixed assets,
Yeah.
this policy creates the structure around which we inventory those fixed assets. This is first reading. Policy 704, it's not new, it's our customary policy. It aligns with the Governmental Accounting Standards Board guidance and includes a threshold of $50,000 for group purchases. That's one of the changes in here. And the policy was reviewed by our policy review committee on the 13th of March with Kara's input. And you'll see this again at our next meeting for approval.
Okay, so that's first reading for policy 704. Further policies, Matt?
Policies 412 and 413 and 512 do require action tonight, or we're asking for action tonight. These two policies are being amended to reflect changes made legislatively. You can see in their board report the minor adjustments that were made, and also the review and recommendation by the policy review committee to approve these two policies with one reading.
Since the changes are minor, we can make these changes in one meeting. If I have a motion to make the changes.
So moved.
Moved by Ashley and a second by Dave.
second.
Any discussion around the policy for harassment and violence and school-sponsored student publications? Our new packet. Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of accepting the changes in policy 413 and 512 as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Policies 413 and 512 are accepted as presented. And then Matt, policy 624.
Thank you. This is the second, your second viewing of policy 624. So this one is up for approval tonight. As indicated at our previous meeting, this policy is in alignment with MSBA's model policy 624, as well as Minnesota Online Learning Act, which is statute 124D03. So quite a bit of change in here. That act was updated, and this policy aligns with and sets the table for us to effectively implement online learning in alignment with the law.
Okay, it's been at the table before and discussed. Need a motion to accept policy 624.
So moved.
Move Dave. Second.
Second.
Second by Ashley. Questions or comments, concerns on 624 online learning option policy? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of accepting policy 624 as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 624 is adopted. Oh, thank you. We earlier in the meeting moved past Josh Whitmore's item concerning the Big Fork field trip request. Josh, you there?
I am. Thank you
hear
so
us?
much. I can. Can you hear
Great.
me?
Yes. Josh, we have an action item indicating there's a change to the Big Fork school field request trip. Can you enlighten us?
Yes. So, as per our school policy, whenever the status of travel internationally, based on the U.S. Department of Travel scales 1 through 4, whenever we see an uptick to a level 2, we are to ask admin to step in and ask us or cover, how we proceed. And so as a result, our Italy-Greece trip, the country of Italy actually went up to a level 2 and was reaching more towards the 3 level due to an increase in terroristic action. And that actually was directed towards U.S. citizens, according to the U.S. Embassy in Italy. And so as a result, we canceled that trip because of safety concerns. And I had a lot of great help from, Mr. Gross, as well as Mr. DeCoster on that. And so I'm really thankful. What I'm asking for is to pivot to a new trip, and it actually still is in Greece. Greece is still a level 1. And after discussing with Explorica, if we change to a domestic, which is what I had originally asked for, it would end up costing those people that had signed up for the Italy-Greece trip 25% of their investment. Where if we were able to pivot to an international trip that was still in a safe zone, there would be no loss. They simply would just change where we're going. And in this case, we found a Greece only. And as I said, it's a level 1 right now, which is just normal travel. But I did ask Explorica what guarantees they can give us that this isn't going to happen like it did in Italy. And they said that what they are offering now, first of all, they did assure me that there are many schools that are going through this kind of crazy time for travel. But they said that they now are offering a guarantee that should something go wrong, instead of cancellations and losing investment, instead, they would simply have a guarantee policy that we paid for a trip if it means that we have to push it until things become safe. That safety is their number one concern. So what I am asking, and I apologize for the long-winded explanation, I am looking for permission to pivot to this Greece-only trip, as Italy is no longer a viable option as per our safety standards.
Good. Thank you. To move the discussion along, we should take a motion and a second to approve the Big Fork field trip request to Greece only. Is that correct, Josh?
That is correct, sir. Thank you.
Do I have a motion for that? We can discuss it after.
So moved.
A motion from Ashley and a second. Second, Tom. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
So you said the domestic only would be 25%, but this would be no additional cost on this pivot to Greece only, it sounded like?
Yep, there would be no pivot. They literally would switch over the payments that have been made towards Italy and Greece, and they would just continue on paying just for a Greece only trip.
Okay. And I appreciate you brought up a couple things. It was clear you'd done some research on it. I'm glad you asked about, the concerns about what happens when Greece changes, right? I appreciate the foresight of that.
The only question I would have, Josh, is if something does happen and Greece goes up to a level 2 or 3 or what have you, what happens to those senior kids that don't make it anymore? Do we refund them? Do we know what would happen with them?
Excellent question. So their money they paid for a trip, and it's locked in at that student level or student rate. So I asked this same question, and they said that they would be guaranteed a trip if they were forced to push for it, and they would still get the student cost rather than normal travel costs.
So we would our school district policy would still allow them to join the trip with the school? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Josh, how many students do we have engaged?
Well, now we have to see if people will want to switch over. But as of before we did this, we had 16 official sign up, and then we had roughly an additional 10 to 12 that were committed to doing or going on this trip, but were unable to make the payments directly, and instead they were going about it as far as putting into a savings account and waiting until towards the end timeline of signing up, just in case something happens. So again, there was a potential of around 26 to 28 people, but 16 official.
Excellent. And it sounds like you've been in conversations with the students about their willingness to make the switch.
Yes. Yep.
Other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Josh?
Is there, I realize that I thought I had put this in, but another motion to make is the way Big Fork does the trips. Since I got here, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just one teacher taking all of these trips. And so we divided it up into areas of the world that multiple staff would be in control of. So to take, for instance, Professora Nasara, who used to teach Spanish here, was in charge of all American tours or America's tours. I was only given training to take European tours, and we've never had anyone that took over as far as Asian tours. The reason why, like I said, we did this is so that not just one person would take it and miss miss potential work and that kind of stuff. I personally will not take trips during school years. I only will do them in summertime. But I know that in the past there were people that based on the trip that they were signing up for, did not have those options. And so they had to take those trips during the school year. So having said that, we do not have an official person to run the Americas tour since Nasara left. And so I was asked to make a motion to nominate Michelle Hill, who was going to be on the meeting. Unfortunately, she had an emergency and was not able to be here tonight. And so we are asking the board permission that she take over planning for any future Americas tours and be able to go or undergo that training from Explorica and EF Tours.
Josh, thank you. That does not relate specifically to this trip to Greece. Is that correct?
No.
Then with the board's permission, I think we need to act on this, and we will look for that change to come to a future board meeting.
Okay.
If that's acceptable.
I agree.
Is that something that we can discuss at our next
Yeah.
meeting then?
Yeah.
April 7th? Would that be available?
Yeah, we can sort that out. All in favor of the motion that's on the table to change the Big Fork school field trip from Italy and Greece to Greece only with Josh Whitmore, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Josh. Congratulations. I look forward to hearing from the students as they return, and we will deal with the Americas issues later.
Thank you
At
so
later
much. I
board meeting.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think there we are on to partnerships, and we've got a nest of them. And it's Melanie, you're on. We have leadership of community education, ISD, Hill City, and so forth. And
Yeah.
I think we probably need to, for clarity, we probably need to take individual motions on these rather than do them as one.
Okay. Do you mind if I talk about them all together and then?
Please, I think that would be
Perfect.
appropriate.
So thank you for having me here again tonight. Community Ed is a partnership across Itasca Area Schools Collaborative, and currently we have 4 schools that work together in partnership to provide Itasca Area community education. For the 25-26 school year, we're looking to add Hill City as an additional partner through the Community Ed collaboration. And what this partnership entails is community ed leadership services for some of our smaller districts in the area to be able to provide a robust community ed program where we all work together across district boundaries to provide what's best for our community. So the first leadership contract is for Hill City. That covers leadership contract expenses for community ed director licensure and targeted services programming. The second one is, I don't know what order they're in on the Greenway. That is the same community ed leadership contract to provide leadership services and the targeted services, as well as the community ed catalog is provided to all districts that incorporates Itasca area community education. The third one is
Deer River.
Deer River, and that would be the same leadership expenses. And then our fourth one is Nashua Keewatin is the same. These expenses for the three that were current, Greenway, Deer River, and Nashua, have increased slightly due to the increase of leadership costs that cover the director's time and mileage and details to provide those leadership services. And Hill City was calculated based on their district's overall district population. And that's how we calculate all the leadership costs. 100% of leadership costs get divided between 4 districts, or adding Hill City get divided between 5 districts. So the 4 districts that currently, they had a slight increase, but not as big of an increase as it would have been if we didn't add Hill City. So by adding Hill City, we're able to bring everyone's down a little bit from where it would be in 25-26 if we didn't have a 5th district.
Thank you. Just hang on a second. We'll
Yep.
take these one at a time. I'm looking for a motion to contract for leadership in community ed with ISD 02 Hill City.
So moved.
A motion and a second from Ashley and Dave. Any questions or concerns concerning Hill City, which is the new kid on the block?
I have a quick question. For Hill City, do they seek us out or do we seek them out, or how did this come to be?
They were seeking us out.
Okay.
Yeah, their new superintendent is from Nashua Keewatin, saw the benefits of it in his district as he came over to Hill City and was eager to explore options, not because their community ed program was suffering, but because of the things we can bring with the partnership as far as targeted services and the collaboration and partnership to be able to serve more people.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
And just to clarify then, basically all the costs from these are divided up and split up based on school population, right?
Yeah.
So
School, district-wide population. Yep. Not their student population, it's their community population.
okay.
Any questions about Hill City? If not, all in favor of contract for leadership with Hill City, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we're going to go through these and leadership for community ed for Greenway. I have a motion from Ashley and a second from Dave. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the Greenway, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Contract for leadership of community ed with Deer River. I have a motion and a second from Ashley and Dave. Any comments regarding that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And finally, community ed leadership contract with Nashua Keewatin. I have a motion and a second from Ashley and Dave. Any questions or comments regarding it? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. That also is approved. Melanie, thank you for your work in this regard. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. We need to approve an independent provider application from the Star of the North figure skating. Matt, you're the chief figure skater here.
Yeah, obviously. So we, one of the things that we do for programs that are adjacent, I'd say, to the school district, that provide activities for students, is to make this available. We work in partnership with them. This enables students to letter in an activity without it running directly through the school district. The club runs the program. We do this with gymnastics. We do this with We've done it with rodeo, I think, maybe before here, trap shooting type things, fishing. Those activities that aren't offered by the school district, but provides an opportunity for students to participate in something that keeps them engaged, and keeps them aligned to the school district. So there's a packet in there, if you had time to look through that, that lays out the process for the independent provider, what their responsibilities are, that kind of thing. Dale, activities directors, reviewed this and is recommending approval.
Do I have a motion to accept the application from Star of the North Figure Skating?
So moved.
Move Dave, second.
Second.
Second, Ashley. Any questions, comments, concerns in this regard?
Superintendent Gross, is this something that needs to be approved every year?
Yes.
And that's the case with all independent providers?
Yep.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions concerning figure skating? All in favor of accepting the application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Welcome to Star of the North Figure Skating Club. Delighted to have you aboard. We'll skip down to board reports at this report. And Jaden, we're going to start with you because you've been so patient.
On March 18th, we had our first 3v3 March Madness tourney, which it was a $5 entry fee for everybody that entered. And we ended up raising $205, and all the proceeds will go to the Ronald McDonald House. And then we were also able to throw a pizza party for the first, second, third, and fourth place winners. Along with the Ronald McDonald House, Student Council is still hosting the pull together with our pop tabs, and we are now up to 43,689 pop tabs. And again, this goes until May 3rd. Our Student Council is also completing Jocelyn's Renaissance Monthly Culture and Climate Challenges. And this month we did the compliment clothespins. So Student Council members were able to write like positive messages on clothespins, and then we discreetly put them on people's like backpacks or jackets, and then that just went out throughout the day, and you could tell it really made people's days better. So we're going to do this again in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. Our band is currently in Hawaii, so they're able to sightsee, visit Pearl Harbor, and play for a new audience. Our spring musical is coming up. That'll be the weekend of April 11th through the 13th. Tickets are available to purchase, and the show is High School Musical, and it has a lot of our high school students in it. 2 teams of Grand Rapids high school students put their global knowledge to the test at the Academic World Quest competition in Minneapolis. For the second year in a row, one of our teams was able to secure a top 3 finish, and one of our other teams was able to go and compete for the first time. Some sports updates. Track and field had their first meet on the 25th at BSU, and they also have another meet tomorrow, also at BSU. Girls lacrosse first meet is April 11th and 12th, and they're both home meets, so make sure we can go to those. Boys baseball's first game is April 8th at Superior. Softball is April 3rd, home versus Bemidji. And tentative on the weather, boys tennis is supposed to be this Thursday at Bemidji. Otherwise, next Friday, home versus Aiken. Still to come in April, we have the Academic Excellence Awards Night, Math MCA's Job Fair, Prom with Purpose, and upcoming IB testing.
Jaden, thank you. Busy place.
Yeah.
Tom, do you have a board report?
Sure. So I sat in on the district staff development meeting we had last, I think it was a couple weeks ago already. There was really good discussion there. A lot of discussion about the approval of staff development funds. Also, there was some good, healthy discussion about some of the issues they've experienced with changes in our accounting softwares and really being able to monitor the funds. So we'll do some work and talking with people on how we can make those reports a little quicker and easier for them to make sure they're using their funds and not going over on their budgets with that. So it was a good discussion there. Also sat in on the Big Fork School Advisory, which we received the report earlier from Mr. DeCoster there, and again, that group, I really appreciate what's going on there. The community's been very active in that. Teachers and I think there's good progress being made there in everything I've been involved with there. So that's all I have.
Hey, Tom, thank you. Ashley?
Well, I was not able to attend the wellness committee meeting this go around. I had a sick child, so I apologize that I do not have an update there. And then, as you know, Dave, for the policy review committee, it was just you and I at that time. And so we did go ahead and vote on some of the policies because there was not a whole lot of discussion that needed to be made. So we did vote on some of those this evening, but other than that, that is my report. It's very short, very sweet. There you go.
Ashley, thank you. Dave?
All right. On March 13th, I reached out to our state senators and representatives regarding the mascot bill, which was Senate File 1404. And then a couple days later was asked to testify via Zoom at the Education Finance Committee in support of that bill. I think the testimony went well, got some great questions and great support from the senators and representatives on that committee, which was great. Also, I believe that the media around that was pretty positive and kind of standing up for our case for that. Hopefully it gets passed in the omnibus bill. It was laid over for that. Also on the 18th, I attended a Rife Arts Council meeting where I was appointed to the External Affairs Committee. I think we call it voluntold, is what that's called. We had some initial discussions on the grant funds that were received from the Blinded Foundation and that utilization. I did attend the Wellness Committee, but I don't recall all of what we talked about. It was a lot of learning and getting to know people. So thank you for getting to know those folks. On the 20th, I was able to attend with Superintendent Gross the Cohasset School of Excellence Award celebration. And let me tell you what an experience that was. The entire student body sang the national anthem as loud as they possibly could, which took, I think, both of us aback. And then they got up on ukuleles and played a song. I really struggled keeping dry eyes. And I normally struggle with that, but I really struggled there. Incredible pride from the kids and staff and communities there. Principals Wheelock and Siegel, well done. Just incredible. I also happened to run into my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Lavalier, who recognized me somehow, which was a throwback. It was pretty incredible. And then just like we said earlier, a special shout out to the Grand Rapids High School band, who has 141 students, staff, and chaperones in Hawaii right now. And just the logistics of that alone is incredible. They've worked tirelessly for fundraising for this for the last 3 years to join the trip. I was able to watch a video of them performing at the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor. And these kids and staff represented our community incredibly well. A lot of honor and respect. Just heart goes out to them. Thank you to the band directors, parents, staff, and chaperones that came together to make this incredible opportunity for these kids. Mahalo. That's all I got.
Thank you, Dave. Nice report. Very briefly on March 7th, Superintendent Gross, Chairman Schroeder, and I went to a tribal consultation at Fond du Lac. It's an annual event where we meet with tribal leaders to talk about how our programs align and support Indian education. And it was very illuminating, very strong presentation. March 10th was our joint day at the Capitol, and several of us were there to express concerns and hopes concerning funding for our schools. The Boys and Girls Club met on the 18th and again on the 24th, did a safety walkthrough in the building. The site for the Boys and Girls Club right now is the Grand Rapids RJ Elkington Middle School. And the highlight for me was on the 28th, the Student of the Month presentations last Friday. The superintendent and I were there to see just some incredible stories about the great work that our students that don't always get recognized, but are doing some really great work as people, as students, and as community members. It's great, great opportunity. Superintendent, do you have a report?
Yeah, thank you. Some of these things that you mentioned are really good to soak in and be reminded of, that in the midst of challenge and change and difficult decisions, our kids are awesome. Our staff are awesome. There's great things happening despite that stuff. And it can be easy to get to forget about that. So as much as you can, to stay connected to things like School of Excellence celebrations and keep up with the band as they're on their trip and representing our district and schools well, and Student of the Month, that's all really, really important. The seasonal recreational tax replacement aid bill is going to be heard in the tax committee tomorrow. That's good. I think the goal is that it will make its way into the tax bill. I think that's the path forward. Hopefully there is a tax bill. There doesn't have to be one. And so I think, there's momentum there, but there's a cost there too, to the state. And so depending on how that gets framed, whether it's focused on northeastern Minnesota or more broadly, I think could affect that. So something to keep an eye on. The last few weeks for me have been occupying a lot of what we talked about tonight, with meetings with staff and about what's happening. And, just to shout out to our administrators, they've been digging deep for years to come to these meetings and talk about how they're going to run their buildings and make reductions and, work with staff that aren't maybe happy or pleased with the results of them. And so my hats go off to them. A lot of respect for our leaders in our district, or principals and directors. So want to mention that. Let's see. A couple other things were mentioned. MCA's coming up and are in swing. Other than that, I mentioned federal impacts earlier, but it's important to watch what's happening and to keep our eyes open. For years, our country has taken a position that underserved students matter, whether they have special needs or don't speak English or who live in poverty. And that's not the case in every country, including many countries that we get compared to. Those students don't show up. They're not even counted. They don't exist in their country's eyes. And so I just hope that regardless of how these things shake out federally, we won't lose sight of that. We won't lose sight of these kids. We won't lose sight of the fact that what's made America great is we've tried to keep everybody in mind, whether they were immigrants from, Eastern Europe 100 years ago, or from somewhere else. And so we've intentionally made those decisions as a country. I hope we can continue to do that. We've created programs and services so those kids can contribute, meet their goals for their life. And I think it'd be a shame if we got away from that or lost sight of that. So hopefully we won't see that happen. Hopefully we'll continue to fight for those things that matter most. And that, to me, those kids matter a lot. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything else that should come before the board this evening? There are meeting announcements that are, the agendas can be found on the district website and on district designated posting sites at the ISD 318 Educational Services Center. All the board meetings and minutes are listed there. If there's no other business, we stand adjourned. Thank you.